Making a false or misleading statement to a public servant. Ooch. A person who knowingly makes a false or misleading material statement to a public servant is guilty of a gross misdemeanor. Pooch. Material statement means a written or oral statement reasonably likely to be relied upon by a public servant in the discharge of his or her official powers or duties. Is to respond to the State versus Thomas changes the law prohibiting materially false or misleading statements to public servants enacted in sections 32 and 33 of Chapter 285. And then this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, or safety, or support of the state government. Pooch. Now, this making of false or misleading statements, yes, I had read some of the statements where Jessica was the eyewitness to what happened and she's blind. Yes, that would be a materially false or misleading statement. A blind person cannot be an eyewitness to anything. No, no, no. She might have heard what she thought was going on, but she had no idea what was really going on. Now, of each of those declarations, is there any false or misleading statements that the sheriff's department, ooch, the police department, oh, the judiciary, ooch, CPS, welfare, or any other public servant would have relied upon as justification for having me arrested for crimes I didn't commit? Ooch. Now, I'll give you an example of this. On December 31st of 2015, it was alleged that I was in Sequim, Washington when I wasn't. Yeah. Did somebody actually contact the police, or did they just make up this whole two-count criminal complaint where I violated the protection order? Because when I really think about it, okay, somebody must have made a false and misleading statement to law enforcement for them to think that I was in Sequim, Washington on December 31st when I was actually in Port Angeles, Washington, on the bus that morning, and in this library that afternoon at 4:48 p.m. Now, there's what's known as a false police report. Yeah. But when you use a traffic citation instead of the actual police report for some sort of domestic violence where you take pictures of it and you have a signed statement and all the other. In this instance, yes, somebody must have believed a false and misleading statement by Heidi Lee Budnick that I committed some sort of crime on 400 Squim Avenue, North Squim Avenue. But I had given you the actual documentation that I was sleeping at the Serenity House that night. I had taken the bus that morning. Yes. And you would not admit the evidence, and instead you would assist those that should be arrested for the gross misdemeanor of giving police departments false and misleading statements. Now, let's say you're a police officer. You're an investigator for the sheriff's department. Yes, you heard about this whole incident where somebody was making up stories about somebody else giving them false and misleading statements. Yes. You could only get convicted for a misdemeanor for giving assistance to somebody that should be prosecuted as a criminal. Yes. Now, I know you're feeling good about this. A misdemeanor. You don't have a criminal record, Sheriff? Yeah. You could probably bail out. Now, well, would it affect your career? Would it? No, I originally thought this was a false police report, but since it's a traffic citation where there's no actual signature of the alleged victim, there's no documentation of exactly what was said or what was done. Yes, it must be a false and misleading statement that you refused to prosecute my wife for the gross misdemeanor. Now, for all the police officers in the Swin Police Department, in the Port Angeles Police Department, that have any knowledge of false and misleading statements, I'm thinking there's the crime of compounding. Now, I know you would say the Queen of England didn't pay you to do that, but it is a false and misleading statement to a public service known as a police officer to have them issue a traffic citation, even though it's the wrong form, the wrong documentation, all the necessaries are not there.